I want to thank President Biden for giving us this opportunity. We come from a country that's really poor, and we're looking for work.
Illegal border crossers praising the president's border policy as Fox News cameras capture the extent of the crisis. Watch as migrants climb over barbed wire and shipping containers. It's a scene the president did not witness during his short visit on the border on Sunday before heading over to Mexico to address immigration with its president. Fox News contributor and retired acting ICE director Tom Homan joins us now. Good morning, Tom.
Good morning.
Good morning. So what did you make of that? The president went to the port of entry. He met with the people serving the migrants, but he never saw any of the migrants. And then we have video of them or pictures of them cleaning up the streets. The day before, they were really messy, full of trash. The next day, they were clean.
You know, I was hoping the president would go down there and make a meaningful trip, but it's just another political stunt. It was a photo op. He went down there to empty streets, empty migrant centers. He went to the part of the border where there's a border barrier, where obviously the Secret Service thought he was safe where there's a border barrier. Get that. And understand what's going on the border. What he did is did a photo op. I'm sure he's going to announce his, run for presidency. This is nothing but a political stunt. He didn't go down there and talk about how to secure the border. And what he should have done from the time he landed is apologize to the men and women of the Horse Patrol who he slandered from the White House podium, because he still hasn't even announced that those men were innocent and put them back to work. He should apologize for the first speech he gave as president, where he said the men and women of the last administration would have watched children starve to death on the banks of the Rio Grande. This is talking about 20,000 men and women of the Border Patrol who saved lives. He should apologize for signing 90 executive orders that abolished the most secure border these men and women ever had. And he should have spent a few minutes and asked why there's 14 suicides of Border Patrol agents in 1 year. Try to understand that, to see if Washington can help with this. I'm not saying the historic border crisis caused a suicide, but it certainly weighed on these men and women who ever had some sort of internal struggle. He had an opportunity to honor the men and women who stand on that front line and defend this nation. Instead, he went down there and disrespected them and chose to see what what they're not dealing with every day. It's disgusting.
Marsha Blackburn is touring the border with a group of other women senators, and she said this fiscal year alone, remember it started in October, they've apprehended 143 individuals convicted of crimes here in the U.S. We have a picture of a machete. Guy down there on the border is attacking the migrants using this machete and robbing them. They're trafficking humans. They're trafficking fentanyl. The border crossings are dangerous, not only to Americans, but also to the migrants.
When you make promises you can cross the border illegally, be released in the United States, when you tell ICE they can't arrest you because you're simply here illegally, the most vulnerable people in the world are going to put themselves in the hands of criminal cartels to come to the greatest nation on earth. There's already been over 1,700 migrants dead on U.S. soil, which is a record by far, right? Add that to over 100,000 Americans dead from fentanyl. This administration's policies are killing people. Let me say this. President Trump, when illegal immigration was down 83%, how many women weren't being sexually assaulted? How many migrants weren't dying? How many pounds of fentanyl weren't getting into the country because we had a secure border and the Border Patrol was vigilant on the line? President Trump's policies save lives. President Biden's policies are killing people at record numbers.
I know. When they hear it done in Mexico and other countries that our borders open, many of them are sending unaccompanied children. Can you imagine doing that, being so desperate? In order to save those lives, just do it the right way. Thank you so much, Tom.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.